All right, let's do another shelf. Nighttime edition. Let's look at this one under it. So this one is not double stacked, so I feel like what we should do is we should take a more leisurely pace, and look at these books one by one and kind of appreciate them. So let's start with what's on the right here. What do we have? We have The Frontiers of Jazz, or Frontiers of Jazz, edited by Ralph de Toledano. In a second revised edition, we have this wonderful motion-filled pen drawing of all of these musicians on the back. Does it say who did the illustration? Maybe we could see in the front who did it. A superb collection of serious jazz writing. We got a sticker for $2.95. I like that price. Bring back these book prices, please. Of course, like, used book places are like, we've done brought back those prices. Essays that have become classics. The book has an authority that few works in this field achieve, according to Virgil Thompson of the New York Herald Tribune, whose writings have been collected in the Library of America. We got this nice kind of unassuming spine, and what's this press? Ungar. Not super familiar with that group. Frederick Ungar Publishing Company. Well, it's just Penguin now. Whatever it is, I know that it got eaten up by Penguin now, by a very fat penguin. Ralph de Toledano, generally known as a top-working journalist, he's a jazz buff out of the top drawer. Wow, that's so good. When is this from? Nice toast to the pages on here. If I'm doing like a one-bite pizza review of this, it's a nice toast to the pages. 1962. Yeah, that's where you say things like, he's a jazz cat of the top brass, you know? So we start off with an essay by Ralph de Toledano. We have Sartre in here. We have like all kind of cool people. We have Preston Jackson. King Oliver, is that like Oliver Nelson? No, it's King Oliver, who was playing in 1912. So this is an actual like early jazz great. This is not some later person who was like avant-garde and pressing forward with the guard. What do we have on the second page of the contents? We got Benny Goodman, Duke Ellington. These are all people I know. Jelly Roll Morton on records. What? Oh, wow. We have I Discovered Jazz in 1902 by Jelly Roll Morton. That seems really cool. He says, I still claim that jazz hasn't gotten to its peak as yet. I may be the only perfect specimen today in jazz that's living. It may be because of my contributions that gives me authority to know what is correct or incorrect. I guess I am 100 years ahead of my time. Jazz may be transformed to any type of tune. If the transformer has doubt, measure arms with any of my dispensers. On any instrument, of course I'll take the piano. If a contest is necessary, I am ready. See, these are the people I want to be hanging out with. So we're going to keep this practice of kind of keeping a stack of what I take off the shelf over there. So what's next? We have The Cinnamon Peeler by Michael Ondaatje. So you will remember in yesterday's video, or the last video, we were looking at Coming Through Slaughter. We were looking at the Penguin edition like that belongs in this series of Ondaatje's books of Coming Through Slaughter, and I was saying that I love that. The Cinnamon Peeler, I think it contains poems from that book that everyone finds out about because they like David Foster Wallace, and he said he liked the collection. There's a trick with a knife I'm learning to do, it's called. Dates. It becomes apparent that I miss great occasions. My birth was heralded by nothing but the anniversary of Winston Churchill's marriage. No monuments bled, no instruments agreed on a specific weather. It was a seasonal insignificance. So they don't immediately like reach out and grab you, but they're good, and maybe I'll read more poems from this later. Now here's the book where it's like, why haven't I read this? So we got Edward Said, who's like one of the best writers, right? And then we got this book about music and society. Like, I have to read this, and it's like interviews too, so it kind of fits with my collection of plays, not gonna lie. Kind of fits with my collection of plays. I'm not convinced that the tonal system is a pure and simple fabrication of man. Nor am I convinced that it is a law of nature. I vacillate from one to the other. You mean in its origin? Yes, and in its existence too. And I think that sometimes in Schoenberg, when you have the 12 tones with their search for equality and denial of the hierarchy of tonality, this cannot fight a certain element of order that the ear has developed and that yearns for some kind of tonal consonance. Consonance is like a natural phenomenon, you know, all the memes say. This seems like a good book to read on the it kind of reminds me of like The Chairs Are Where the People Go. It's just like, why don't my friend and I get together and pool our wisdom on a topic or just in general and make a book out of that? Why don't we do it? Why don't we just trade stories, record them on a tape recorder or on voice memos, transcribe it, and then that's the dang book? That would be a very interesting book. That's one of those books that everyone can and should write, you know? Everyone should get together with a friend and pool wisdom. I like that these music books are both orange, UT colors. Now what's this doing here? Omen Setter's Luck. This is a booktube extravaganza. We got this nicely faded spine. It's the Plume edition. I have a soft spot for any edition. It has that, oh, can we focus on it? It has that Plume P at the top. We can't focus on it. This is William Gass's first novel. I have a book, I read kind of poorly, to be honest, his book On Being Blue, which is, I think, a favorite among my set. It's one of those great kind of old-fashioned, see the world in a grain of sand kind of essays that are blown up to the size of a book. Things like, I don't know, Religio Medici or whatever. I don't know. Like, it's old kind of seeing everything in an essay kind of things. And we like William Gass. BookTube loves him. I love him because he writes sentences for the sake of sentences. And I think when he was early on writing, he would just write sentences and experience the freedom that grammar permits. And he learned a lot by just doing reps with sentences in a way that I always think about every time I write a poem. And this is good stuff. And I'm sure there's lots of videos on BookTube about Omen Setter's Luck. And I'm sure a few of the 75 or 80 people who are going to watch this video will have read this book, and they know it's good. You do, by God, the thought turned him topsy-turvy. It seemed to summarize the whole worthless way of the world, if there was one, and versions of it began to flutter wildly through his head. You have to look round to see straight, good enough, useful, and the rough places plain. Kind of reminds me of Rabbit Run, to be honest. The house is so spooky at night. I've just turned my laundry over, moved it from the washer to the dryer, in between books. You know, it's that kind of day. Contemporary American poets. This was a free book bin find over at Frugal Muse on a day when, I think it was the day when there was that couple in Frugal Muse who were who were speaking so ugly to each other and were saying these awful things and just being really mean to each other, and it was very scary. And you were thinking to yourself, is that what you're destined for if you're married to somebody for a long time? You're going to eventually talk to them that way, you know? Just had to catch my breath there for a second. Somebody commented on my last video and said they liked this style of video. Thank you very much. I'm really glad you like this style of video and you think it's cozy. Let me know what I can do to make the videos cozier. Maybe there could be, I don't know. I don't know what it is about me, but for some reason I spent much of my time between pages 40 and 40, between about pages 40 and 47. I spent a lot of time between pages 40 and 47. Have you all read Farm Implements and Rutabagas in a Landscape? If you haven't, you probably don't like the sestina as a form. If you've read it, you know what I mean when I say that the sestina is my favorite poem form. It's my go-to. If you can't write anything else, you will be able to write yourself a sestina. Get out that pocket dictionary. Get out that, where was that? I think it was on that shelf. Now it's buried. Get out that pocket dictionary, get you some random words, and make you a sestina. Make you a farm implements and rutabagas in a landscape. This is the list of people who are in this book. If you see some names you like, as I definitely do, just for a start, we got Frank O'Hara, we got Sylvia Plath, we got Louise Gluck. I like Philip Levine, I think. I'm actually becoming a Philip Levine fan. I like Denise Levertov's religious poems. I like Robert Lowell. I like Leroy Jones. I like Mary Baraka. I like Jack Gilbert a lot. It's cool that Jack Gilbert's in here. Right by Allen Ginsberg. It's funny what the alphabetization does to the crew. What seating arrangement? What a fun and an unanticipated seating arrangement it makes. It makes kind of a nice Sweet 16, a nice Final Four of poets. Wait, didn't I already get this out? Didn't I already show you this? Chopin, the Man and His Music? What? This was on another shelf. Okay, this is bizarre. So somehow Chopin, the Man and His Music traveled 2 shelves down and is now on that other shelf. It's that Dover edition, and it talks about how we agree with Niecks that the posthumous Polonaise without opus number was composed later than 1822. It's very academic in that way. Here's what you want to see. We got Life with Jeeves by P.G. Wodehouse. Oh my goodness. So this has the 3 books that are in that slip-cased thing that I took all 3 books out of and weirdly threw away the slipcase of. What books are they? Thank you guys for bearing with me as I flip through pages with my hand that's not holding the book. The Inimitable Jeeves, Very Good Jeeves, and Right Ho Jeeves. This is a nice solid Penguin, got that nice orange. I take it on trips. My dearly beloved friends also take the book on trips, and it's quite a book. It is very funny, and you know the deal. And I like the illustration style on the front. It's nice and light, and yet precisely drawn, kind of like Wodehouse's stories are. This is just a very, very respectable Penguin paperback. If you see somebody in public reading this particular paperback, you should go up and say hi, introduce yourself, and ask them if they know about Leafy Concern. Silence Once Begun, a novel by Jesse Ball. So this is one I kind of skimmed. I think my copy is signed. I'm fairly certain it is. What is this? So the deal with this book is that it's like a collection, it's a dossier book. It's a collection of photographs and interviews and essays about, what is it about now? Wow, it's just like a straight up, like Law and Order mystery. This is a good book. I would like to reread it. I would like to have another Jesse Ball phase. Have y'all ever had a Jesse Ball phase? When I had mine, I read The Curfew. I skimmed Samedi the Deafness. I skimmed this book. I remember looking at his March book for stuff. I remember getting a copy of A Cure for Suicide that I never read. There's that signature there. Jesse Ball, 2015. Oh boy, am I running out of steam already? Let's do all these little guys at one go. There's kind of like a batch of little guys. So Marker. I like Marker movies. I like La Jetée. This was just like it's one of those first New Directions pamphlets. I got more of these because I really like that Sam Greenberg one. There Was an Old Man with a Springbok is a book I love. We gotta read one. There was a young lady at Taco Bell whose toppings were those of an infidel. Her beef enchilada was cause of a lot of distress to the people at Taco Bell. Let's run it back. There was a young lady at Taco Bell whose toppings were those of an infidel. Her beef enchilada was cause of a lot of distress to the people at Taco Bell. Stuff like that. I love poems like that. Why is there whiteout saying Duino elegies on this book? Anyway, this is my guilty pleasure translator of Rilke. Contrary to the desires of William Gass, who does not like what MacIntyre does. This is a really good book. I can't wait to talk about that and reread it. And then Coastlines, which was a gift from a friend. Why was this gift given to me? There's something in here about how Charles Bukowski needs to go down. There's Tom Poots in here. This just kind of looks cool. This looks cool. Does anybody collect issues of Coastlines? It's just a beautiful magazine. I like this gift and I'm gonna keep it forever. The Notebooks of Leonardo da Vinci. I refer to this all the time. It's this big, shiny, floppy Dover book. It comes in 2 volumes, as the cover says. I just have volume 1. It's got columns, you know, and lots of illustrations. It's really, it contains so many cool, unanticipatable insights that are the insights of somebody who just looks really hard at stuff and tries to ask himself whether the colors are brighter because they're farther away or because there's more water particles in the air or not. You know, he asks those important questions. Thank you, Leonardo, for asking only the important questions. Next two we got Fine Lines, Nabokov's Scientific Art. Now this was probably in my Nabokov collection video, which is my most successful video on this channel. I honestly don't read this enough. I just don't read it enough. Oh my gosh, it's just such a lucky thing. Yeah, wow. Yeah, and there's all his drawings are reproduced in it. Take a look at some of these. What can we read a little bit of it? Here's one. There is a new genus that's characterized by an expansive spinate sagum. It's kind of an academic book. Like, you kind of need to know some butterfly terms, but also you don't. You can also just enjoy these drawings, which do kind of look like the drawings I make. The line drawings that I make when I'm just doodling. Nabokov shows an extremely small, minutely dentate structure attached to the far larger adiagus indicated at right, and because of its larger size, shown only in part. Whoa, that's cool. This is like a close-up of some part of a butterfly. This is amazing. Or a part of a plant. This is so cool. I'm very lucky to have this Yale University Press book. Let's see what it looks like under the jacket really quick. Oh yeah, silver letters there. How many pages in this thing? Wow, it's just really heavy and great. This is gonna be fun to move. It's like, you know, it's like 300 pages of this stuff. We got Amphigory, which needs no introduction. I mean, what's your favorite thing in Amphigory? I think mine's probably Gashly Crumb Tinies and the one about the girl who gets ditched. No, I like The West Wing, and I like, what's this one called again? Where it's just these, this is like my favorite one, The Object Lesson. I personally think The Object Lesson is like the best gory book. It's like the purest gory book for me. I love hanging out in this world. Yeah, so as of today, my favorite gory book is The Object Lesson. Moving right along, we've got the copy of The Letters of Vincent van Gogh that my mom used in college when she was studying art. It's interesting how I've got my 2 nice art books, you know, all on this shelf. Tells you something about what went into this shelf, some desire to be a better picture maker and a better writer of letters to my brother and a better observer of leaves at a distance. This is the copy of Confessions that I read over the phone with my mom. There it is. I loved reading this over the phone to my mom. It was the best book club ever. I don't think a better book club will happen. There can only be ones that are as good. This is a great one to read. There are parts in this book that will shock and amaze you. There are parts in this book that will bore you. You will have no shortage of things to underline in here. Maybe 40% of the way through this book, there's such a concentration of poetic writing that it just overwhelms you. The Nashville Sound. That seems good to read, right? Haven't read it, but it's totally up my alley. I love recording books. I think the thing about this is that it was like at a St. Vinny's, and it had a good price, you know, because everything at St. Vinny's has a good price. But the font inside, or the typography, pardon me, inside looked like one of those kind of where they do the paperback and they do like a facsimile of the hardcover. So I was like, this is probably good. If it survives, if the Nashville Sound survives to the point where it's published again in paperback and like facsimile, that goes to show that like probably the original was like beautiful and special enough to merit preserving. It's like the same logic by which if you like look into a New York Review book and you see that it's like a facsimile of an old book, you're like, okay, this is probably excellent, you know? Like the Bog Bodies or something, or like, I don't know, I feel like Emmanuel Bob's My Friends is like that. Ladies of Grace Adieu, the resident Susanna Clark fans, this is a very plain paperback. No texture to the cover, just like plain paper. Very, very plain paperback, printed in the USA, of course. If it were printed in Iceland, it would have like 7 mini books jutting off from it at all angles. Yeah, so Susanna Clark, you know, we got some resident Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell fans, and so we had to have the Ladies of Grace Adieu. I unfortunately haven't read a story from that, but I need to read stories from that. Gosh, I do. And to close, we've got Beverly. Have y'all read Beverly? You know, sue me. I'm a fan of this writer. Did I do a video on acting class when I bought it recently? You know, I bought acting class recently. If I didn't, then I should talk about acting class more. Isn't Ari Aster going to make a movie of that? Gosh, this is wonderful. There's that story in here that involves... Oh, look at that. Do you like this art style? I do. There's that story in here where the mother and child are watching the TV, and they have high hopes, and those hopes are... They might be dashed, they might not. It might not work out for them in the end, but it's a beautiful story, and it's beautifully told. Speaking of printed in Iceland, we have the McSweeney's issue where it's like all Icelandic writers. And look at this, the latest in contemporary Icelandic fiction. I highly recommend this. Oh, look, there's even Roddy Doyle and Stephen Millhauser in this. Are you kidding? Does it have the bonus pocket mag in it? Oh, you can see in the back that it was $5 at Powell's in Chicago, because that's the Powell's handwriting. That $5. Back when you could get something like this for $5 at Powell's. Wow, this is such a nice book. Looks like it got some water damage. It was probably on this dining table, one of our many motley dining tables of history, and got some water damage on it, so it's even more well-loved and beautiful. This is a book I'm going to leave off the shelf and actually read from tonight. I'll put it past the Simenon book, and I'm going to read that. That's gorgeous. We got Trust, a signed copy of Trust by Cynthia Ozick. It was inscribed for Erwin, with all good wishes. Bon voyage to Cuba. So Erwin had a conversation with Cynthia Ozick about going on a trip to Cuba. Then at some point, the book got to a secondhand store, and I was like, I will take that. I will take that signed copy of Trust. I do think that keeps me from reading. I think like if this weren't signed, I would probably read it sooner. And I really do want to read it because I really admire Ozick's ambition. I kind of identify with her as a young writer wanting to make a book of this size. Oh, I'm getting called by the people I need to go see. And last but not least, we have a very water-damaged copy of Diane Williams' Romancer Erector. This is another book I need to read stories from. Golly, I love Diane Williams. Not like with like it's kind of a cold love. It's with a cold love that I appreciate her cold genius. Anyway, that was today's shelf. Happy reading, everybody. I'm gonna go over to a friend's house and have some food.